it opened up on my other Gmail. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. This is Career Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller.
We are going
and
to take a power nap.
I am here with you almost every Wednesday. I've been gone a few times due to travel, and we'll be gone again a few times coming up here with the holidays. However, I'm here most Wednesdays, noon to 1 Central, and I love it when you give me questions, and I don't care if they have anything to do with the topic that I'm talking about or not. You are welcome to ask any question, career related. It could be from something like help with your resume or help with interviewing or how to create a better relationship with your team or with your boss, or even just how to be happier at work. Any of this stuff is fair game. I invite you to ask any questions career related. You can jump in here on Zoom to do that. Do know that this is being live streamed, so if you want to remain anonymous, keep your camera off. But you're welcome to jump in here directly on Zoom, or you can type your questions into the comment section and I will do my best to answer your questions. So I will give you that reminder in a little bit, but I'm eager to jump into what I've got teed up today. As we are entering the end of the year time, my goodness, I'm so happy that I'm a little bit ahead of what I was last year with holiday cards and things like that, and I'm a little more organized than I was last year. So that was an intention I set, and I am doing it anyway. We are coming into that time, and what is helpful, what I've found helpful to do during the end of the year is to take stock of what I have grown with in the past year. What has been important to me? What ways am I different now than I was last year? So even right there, I just shared one. I set an intention and I saw it through. That's great. So I'm celebrating that. I'm deepening that neural pathway in my brain that says when I set intentions, I complete things. And I'm believing that more. Okay. So what are the things that you've done? How are you different? What are the growth moves you've made? What's really important to you? And to take stock of that during this time. And I think it makes sense too, because we're in a celebratory time. And so by me focusing on that, it's like I can get more out of the interactions I'm having over the holidays, can get more out of the time I'm spending with people. And it may not always be more physical time, but it can be intent. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll talk more about that in a moment. So I want to take a step back and talk about the ways that this is part of our culture and part of humanity for many, 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 many years. We have all taken part in ceremonies, rituals, things that are already doing this. It just comes with the seasons. We harvest, we store, we hibernate, we reset. The earth does that in some ways, and we've learned how to sync ourselves up with that. That is helpful to us. So I want to say that this is the year end is a natural emotional transition point. So our brain is wired to respond to endings. There's research on the fresh start effect that shows that the temporal landmarks, like a year end, are naturally open for a window for behavioral change. And I notice this in coaching. I notice that I get more coaching clients, people starting off with me in December, January, and February. So I see that in my business, and I imagine that people see it elsewhere. So we have that. We have these temporal landmarks like this year end, that naturally open for our behavioral change. And then we have the neuroscience of prediction, that our brain constantly compares what was with what's expected the next year. And this year end disrupts the loop. So this can be disconcerting. It can be disorienting, but it's also a space for us to take advantage of to create an intentional shift. And now we're digging into my favorite thing, which is emotions and emotional intelligence. And so by allowing myself to be increasingly present with my feelings in this time. So we have this window of opportunity. We've got this year-end temporal landmark that will naturally open a window for behavioral change. But if I'm going to take advantage of that, that means that I'm going to want to expand my capacity to be with my feelings. To make that quite frank, I want to allow myself to feel hurt, afraid, angry, sad, and joyful. And by doing that, it will help me acknowledge the reality of where I'm at right now, and will help me release things that I am not going to take into the next year. But that the price that I'm paying for shedding things, they may even be good things and not necessarily negative things, but they may not work for me in the upcoming year. I may need to be more focused and let some things that I like, but maybe aren't as important to me, I may need to let them go. And I'm going to have to pay a price for that. And that price might be feeling discomfort. And so in this time, I can prime myself for these changes. I can take advantage of the fact that for thousands of years, my ancestors have done things to let go of the old and bring in the new. And I can do that best by allowing myself to be with the feelings, be with the upset that's coming to me. And I may not need to close down the feelings. Like, I can lean into the discomfort and take advantage of that. I can look at, wow, if my family is not how I want my family to be, it's not, there's some breaches in the relationships, not everybody is communicating as much as I'd like them to, that kind of thing. To really let myself be with the pain of that and be aware of it. Allow myself to see that, allow myself to want more, allow myself to see what I could do differently in the coming year that could change that. So our nervous system is not built to power through indefinitely. Without pause, we'll stay in this sympathetic activation and in mobilize mode, and we burn out from that. So renewal requires this parasympathetic engagement, slowing down so that the system can integrate and reset. And some people I've talked with in the past few weeks are doing things like a staycation. That's the way that they are choosing to take advantage of this time. And saying, you know what, I've actually done traveling, and the thing that would be most nourishing for me is I'm going to rest, and I'm going to make sure that I'm seeing people that are important for me to see, but I'm going to actually take advantage of this time this way. And I'm going to take in some things in my town or in my city that I haven't yet. That's one way that people can play with this. Of course, if you are planning to travel, then how are you traveling? What things are you letting go of in that process? So another way I like to look at this is that renewal requires a kind of small death. So in psychological terms, growth involves these micro deaths. letting outdated identities or roles or habits fall away. The neuroplasticity, our ability to learn new things, we all have, there's lots of research on this now, that at any point in anyone's life, we are able to change our behaviors and attitudes. We have that capability. The key thing is for adults, it will require discomfort, sometimes pain, when we make these changes. So because we have this set system, it's like going to the gym. If I'm gonna build muscle, that is going to require that I break down that muscle. There's going to be some pain in the muscle as I am making it stronger. Same thing goes with us emotionally. So neuroplasticity depends on unlearning as much as learning when we are adults. So pruning old neural pathways makes room for new, more adaptive ones. And this goes with, you can look at addiction. Same thing. Like what you find is that the addiction is there to satisfy some deeper need. And if I'm going to remove the addictive behavior, then I need to put something in there that's actually nourishing, that's actually doing what I was trying to do with the addiction. And so this is a helpful way of looking at that of, okay, what are the small deaths that I'm going through this season? And again, a lot of times the family time or absence of family time, that can highlight things for you if you allow yourself to be with the discomfort, if you allow yourself to be with the feelings during this time. So Daniel Siegel, one of my favorite neuroscience guys, often notes that integration requires differentiation first, letting something separate or end so a new connection can form. So again, it can be an identity differentiation, meaning that I am differentiating from my family system, from one of my caregivers. Then it can be in relationships. My wife and I, there's ways that we work to differentiate. At first, it's so fun to, be like, oh my gosh, we're so similar. And in the in the honeymoon phase, but Hollywood/honeymoon phase. And then to own and acknowledge the differentiation that happens. So these are some of the ways that we can take advantage of this time. But I could talk about this for hours. I want to make sure to invite everybody who's listening in. Feel free to ask any questions at any time, career related. You don't have to try to stick to this subject. I'm talking about renewal and that kind of thing. But if you've got a solid question, something that you're working on in your career, resume review, interview stuff, relationships with your boss or your team, or just strategy if you're looking for work, like how are you going about that, or satisfaction in your career, anything like that, more sense of meaning and purpose in your career. Any question career related is just fine. You can either come off mute or you can type your questions into the comment section, and I will do my best to answer your questions that way. So feel free to ask any question. I like spontaneity and shifting to whatever question I get. Okay, so I'll say another thing too is if this is a space where you do not want to engage because this is being live streamed, you can also set up a one-to-one with me. I'm happy to talk to you for a few minutes. Sometimes people find 15, 20 minutes with me, they get clarity about where they're at. They're like, here's my thoughts. And it's just helpful for them to talk it through. And if there's a bigger project that you're needing help with, we can talk about what a coaching relationship might look like. So feel free to use the link that we're throwing out there to set up a time to talk with me. Ooh, and we are getting a question here. Getting a question. What are my favorite tools for reviewing the year and refocusing for next year? Any books or workbooks or classes, etc.? Okay, great. Great question. So what I've done with this is I've incorporated a lot of trainings I've done in the past into the way that I do it personally. I may have some workbooks or classes that come to mind as I talk into this for a moment. I'll let you know on that, and especially some books. So what I'll say about this is where my brain went first was the practice of looking at movies, holiday movies that have to do with this. So one of the ones that comes to mind, and I hadn't seen this movie until I was in my 30s, was I grew up in a Mennonite community, so technology was not, as available to me. So was It's a Wonderful Life, which is a Christmas movie, and watching that movie at this time with the intent to be with my feelings and to allow that to show me things that I wanted to let go of and things that I wanted to embrace. That was amazing. I remember being with my wife's family at the time and watching this. I'm just bawling, and everyone's like, "Oh, you haven't seen this before?" I was like, "No," and it helped prime me to get more out of my interactions with her family members, because now I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I just want to be me and really get to know these people on a deeper level than I would have otherwise, and like kind of let go of some of the ideas I have of myself and what I think is important, and to be like, wow, what if I'm really a gift, and each person I'm talking to is such a gift, and that I could have that kind of an impact by just focusing a little more on my one-to-one engagements with her family members." Yes, so that's one way that I've worked with this. Another thing, and it's going to depend on where you're at. I've done a lot of these ceremonies, so these solstice ceremonies. If you're in Chicago, then I would highly recommend doing something with Satnam Yoga. They do fantastic gong baths and renewal ceremonies, and they've probably got one coming up. In fact, I was meaning to look at that to see if I could get there. So Satnam Yoga, if you're in Chicago, I highly recommend that. If not, then look around in your neighborhood what you could take part in. I think it's a wonderful thing to do it in person if you can. And, there's probably some things online too that if I think of something, or if I see something in the next few weeks, we'll make sure to send it over to you as well. So let me see what else I can think about there. Great. Okay, cool. So you love that. Let me know if you have any other questions about that. If you want to dig in a little further on workbook classes or practices for setting yourself up for the new year. So another one is, I don't know if you've done any of the personality stuff, that personality assessments. What I'd like to do is share a link for a personality assessment that we have, the CARE personality assessment. So you can look at that, and if you have the intent of taking stock of who you are and how you could lean into being more you in the next year, that could be a helpful tool for you as well. There's also the DISC and IMX profile. That can be a helpful way of looking at, okay, what is it that I really care about? What am I good at, and what do I care about? And wow, these are the ways that I have leaned into that and that have brought me joy this past year. And I'm going to set the intention to lean into that more next year and maybe let go of some of the things that I don't care as much about. For me, one of the things about me is I love everything. Like I want to do everything and I can't. So this year, I am looking at what are the things that are going to be most beneficial to me in the next 5 years. I'm looking at, we're going through a huge change globally and in this country. I'm anticipating significant challenges as the as I'm not going to, I don't know if I'll go as far as to say deglobalization, but globalization is certainly changing, and the United States relationship with the world is certainly changing. And so there's profound implications that that's having, and I'm anticipating that things are going to be significantly challenging for the next 5 years at least. And so I'm taking stock of that and saying, okay, well, now might not be the best environment for me to pursue all of my goals. Okay, so which of my goals are going to have the most likelihood to do well in the next 5 years? And there's some things that I feel sad about. I don't necessarily want to let go of. It's not like they're bad habits or something, but they're not working with the current environment. And it's like, I'm free to bang my head against the wall if I want, but it's not, why would I do that? So that might be another way of really taking stock of what you already know about yourself, maybe using a personality assessment to help give you some guidance, or give you, not guidance, but give you some clarity about yourself, and for you to use that to think through what might be some things that I let lie for a while. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. You experienced a sound bath a few weeks ago for the first time. Yeah. Good. That's excellent. So yeah, take a look at the personality assessment that I shared in there as well. It's a quick one. Take you 5 to 10 minutes to do, and that might help be a catalyst for you as well. So I'm going to share a little more. Please ask more questions. And for anybody joining in, again, you can ask any question career related. You can ask about this topic, which is how to use year-end review, how to use the holiday time to set yourself up well for next year. Now we'll get into some tactical things. So I talked about, and I already talked about letting go of the good things too. So again, it may not be the right time for you to lean into certain endeavors of your development. So all transitions involve some kind of a rupture, some kind of a breach in a relationship. And again, that's happening in a big way in wintertime. Things literally die, trees die, die all the way. But lots of death happens in the winter. And so there's a rupture, and to be conscious of that and to use it for your development is the game that we're playing here. So it's about not avoiding change, but acknowledging it and applying this idea that if there's a breach in a relationship, there's a rupture, that there's nothing wrong with that, that's part of life. And it's about how I re-engage with the relationship that's important. So it's like with a baby and their mother, mom's going to have to go at some point. That's a natural part of development. Mom goes away, and it's upsetting to the baby, and the baby goes through this whole thing of like, is it my fault? Am I bad? Is something wrong with me? Da da da. And then when the mother comes back and reconnects with the baby, then if the mother is coming back and saying, oh no, my baby's crying, that's horrible, I'm a terrible mother, da da da, then that gets laid down into the baby's psyche of this, oh no, something's wrong with me. See, my mom's coming back and is like, oh no, something's wrong. And that does mean something's wrong. And da, 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 da. And believe me, every mother out there did this to some degree, and every father, and it's just part of being a human. But anyway, so don't beat yourself up about it is what I'm saying. But to be conscious that if I can catch that moment of repairing a rupture, there's a great power there. So recognizing, we're in a time of rupture. We're in a time of dying. And now when I'm re-engaging with relationships, when I'm re-engaging with the new year, how do I come back to that relationship? How do I come back to that task? How do I come back to whatever it is with the attitude that I want to enliven things, with acceptance? How do I come back to the relationship with acceptance so that I'm setting up the repair to be as fruitful as possible. And reflection can be a regulatory practice. So honest, compassionate reflection activities, this helps our brain make sense of what's happening. It helps with emotional regulation. So there's research in effective neuroscience that shows that labeling emotions decreases the amygdala activation and increases clarity. So right there, I'm feeling fear because I said a word wrong. Right there. So there, I just soothed my amygdala. And I increased clarity for myself just there in that moment. So these little micro moves that you can do, we're naming whatever it is that you're feeling, fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. That actually brings your consciousness back on, and you can have more focus. So naming that, like, oh, I'm sad that this things this year ending. With this one group I'm in, we're closing out this group. We're starting the year, and we're talking about the things that we're sad about. They're like, oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I'm going to miss this. I feel sad that this group is ending. Right there, I'm soothing my amygdala and making way for new things to emerge. So the other thing I want to touch base on is noticing that when we're playing this growth game, when we're constantly developing ourselves, is to, like David Lynch would say, be aware of the donut and not the hole. Or you could be aware of the hole, but focus on the donut. Because when I'm growing, the horizon, when I'm moving, the horizon is always the horizon. It's always far off. Usually looks like I can't get there. In fact, if the horizon's really close, then it means there's a mountain and it's about ready to get really hard. So to recognize the progress, recognize the distance I've made, it's really important to acknowledge what I've done in the past year. I started off with this and said I'd get to it later, which is of looking at who I was last year at this time and acknowledging who I am today. What are the changes I've made this past year? Oh my goodness, I've made so many changes this year. And I've faced challenges that I wasn't expecting. I faced challenges that I was expecting, and I've worked through a lot of them beautifully. And oh my goodness, I'm not the same man I was a year ago. So taking stock of that at the end of the year is so important to do. So that's a huge thing that might be the most important takeaway from your time with me today, is simply to take stock of who you are versus who you were a year ago. And you want to go even further, then take it back through your entire life. What was the system you grew up in, the family system, the neighborhood, the city, whatever, the religious system, how did you see yourself then? Who were you then? Where did you come from? Okay. And then through your life, who have you become? Who were you a year ago? And now who are you today? And celebrate those wins. Celebrate the moves that you've made. Being proud of what you've done is one of the best things you can do for your development, is simply acknowledging. This is one reason why I do so much group coaching, because it's a common practice that I implement in the group time. Is at the end of the session, what we'll do is acknowledge each other's gifts. Actually, I need to I'll share more. We acknowledge each other's progress. There's some gift acknowledging in there, but the more important thing to focus on is, wow, at the start of this course, this is how you interacted in this group setting. Now you're interacting like this, and I have such a better understanding of you, and I feel more warmly towards you, and I can see how much more direction and focus you have. So that kind of thing, that's why these group coaching sessions are so effective, is because you're getting that feedback from multiple people. And that helps solidify your progress. One major sadness is that we often make progress and we don't even realize it. And then it becomes, almost like wasted work, or we certainly don't leverage it the way we could. So flat out, most important thing to do is acknowledge the ways you've grown this past year. And you can even take it back further and acknowledge all the ways you've grown over the years. That will help a lot set you up for next year. And again, feel free to come off mute if you have any questions, but know that this is being live streamed. So I invite you to type your questions into the chat or into the comment section at any time. And I will do my best to answer your questions. So as we're going into this time, I think one of the ways that you could control this, acknowledging the ways that you've grown over the past year, is anticipate that people are going to ask you how you're doing. If you're going to a holiday party or family gathering, or people are probably going to ask, how you doing? What's happened? What are you up to? That kind of thing. And for you to say, well, I'm so happy about this. Here's the ways that I have met some of these challenges this year. Yeah, and you don't have to say I'm so happy. That's my language. You could, apply it however it makes sense for you in your conversation. But the goal is that you are acknowledging your wins to somebody else, acknowledging what you're proud of. And I just got feedback on this, actually. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I was at this event this past weekend. And people said to me afterwards, you were so alive. Like, you were excited about things, and you were talking about the things you've done in your business. And then you were asking questions about like how other people, what they're proud of. And it just added so much. Like, everybody wanted to talk to you. I wanted to talk to you. And I was like, whoa. So I'm getting that feedback. It's like, wow. That's great. So anybody can do that. It's just, I'm trained to do that. And so I do it sometimes unconsciously. But it was a conscious choice. And sometimes it still is. So like, what was another one I had? I met up with a friend, somebody who I don't talk to that often, really in years, somebody from high school. And I just had a sense of, you know what, I'm gonna stop on our drive from Lancaster to Chicago. We're gonna stop in Pittsburgh and make this connection. And I felt scared about it because I was like, who am I to do this? Why would, these people even care to talk to me? But I just followed that sense in me of like, this is important. And oh man, that's such a thing that I want to share too, is when you get that kind of hunch or that feeling of like, I should talk to this person. Listen to that. That's like, if you believe in God, that's God talking to you. That's God saying like, hey, call this person, connect with them. So, I did that. And I faced fears in doing that. Because it's like, why reestablish this connection? Like, what are they going to think of me? Anyway, I don't need to go into that. The point is that we stopped and we talked, and I leaned in to it, and I talked about the things I was proud of. I shared challenges that I'm up against. And then that person, my friend, leaned in and shared like vulnerably about what they were doing and like things they're proud of and challenges that they have. And all of a sudden, we're like in tears, like in this most wonderful way at a Thai restaurant in Pittsburgh, like, middle of the day, and we're having this deeply meaningful conversation. It was beautiful. And it happened because I intended it. It's not always going to go that way, but I wanted to give an example of what you can do if you intend to. But again, you have to be willing to pay the price of the discomfort. The thing I started with. So acknowledging the wins. For so many people, taking a compliment is like hard work for them. It is for me. It totally is for me too. So I'm laughing at all of you and myself as well. Just taking in a compliment, saying, wow, I did good at this. And then people saying, good job, George. It's like, I want that so bad and I'm so uncomfortable with it. So you're going to have to pay a price of discomfort one way or another, even if it's getting a compliment. So I hope that's helpful to hold with you this season. So we're coming up. I'm going to start wrapping up here and closing out. If you have any questions, any more questions, anything about this topic or anything career related, go ahead and type it into the chat, throw it into the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer it. Again, there's a few tools you can use. You can use the personality assessment, help you take stock of yourself and things that you want to lean into next year. And then there's a one-to-one with me. Feel free to set up a one-to-one time with me. So a practical thing you can do is breathe deeper this holiday season. So a nervous system recharge for the holidays. So long exhales. And I do this from breath work and going into the lake all the time. Is this long and letting the long breath go out to the point of discomfort and feeling some fear of, oh my gosh, I have to breathe. Oh no, I should breathe. And recognizing, oh, I don't. My body is capable. So I'm with the fear consciously. And by doing that, then long, slow, deep breath into the belly and then into the chest gently. That long breath hold out is quite remarkable. There's emerging science on what that does to the body. And I can tell you practically what it does in ice water. So when I go into the ice water, by learning to let my breath, because the shock comes, that cold just hits me. And so I let the shock happen. I don't try to overcome it. I let the shock go, I push the air out. I flow with the fear. That actually slows my heart rate down and it kicks into action my body sending out endorphins to protect from the cold, adrenaline, all of that stuff, while simultaneously slowing my heart rate down so that I'm taking the warm blood and conserving it around my organs. That my body knows how to do that is incredible. And everybody's body, when intending that, everybody, we can all do this. And so that long exhale out, holding out, there's fear there, but then a sense of calm comes in with a deep breath in. And it's like I'm able to maximize that moment. And so you can do this at any point, in any meeting and any time, is just being with that long exhale out, acknowledging the fear, and then breathing back into life. So, set an intention for yourself to use that in meetings or gatherings and that kind of thing. You'll notice a difference, and practice them beforehand. Goes a long way. I do that many times during a coaching session. It's just, whoa, a client said something that's pretty upsetting, and I'll let my heart rate slow down and be with that discomfort. Breathe in. And it's amazing how much I notice then that my client will lean in more and share more, because they're like, okay, George can be with me in this. I'm not fragile. He's not fragile. We can address a challenging topic here. And so as you do that, as you lead that way, as you allow yourself to be with discomfort, as you allow yourself to be with the death at the end of the year, all these micro deaths happening, as you allow yourself to be with the pain, the discomfort that comes there, you will naturally invite the people around you to be more present and conscious with their discomforts. And then it can be a doorway opening to your deeper connection, instead of, trying to avoid and not talk about it. Come on. Like, we're all in a ton of freaking pain. There's just, you don't get through life without that. And so we've got all these pretenses of, looking good around the holidays. And that's fine. I'm going to dress up. I like looking good. I like bringing that energy, but I don't have to deny painful things either. So just think about that. Everybody you're going to talk to over the holiday season has had some painful ass shit happen over the past year and is facing significant challenges in the coming year. That's the high likelihood. So you acknowledging that in yourself and being with that discomfort will be a doorway to deeper connection with the people who you care about. And I find that so often, and I don't know if I'm, creating this, just, I probably am to some degree, because that seems to be the way the world works. But I think everybody gets nicer during the holidays. That's my experience. I took the train the other week, and it was remarkable to me that people just went a little extra in kind of acknowledging each other and being like, yeah, it's cold and snowing. And so there's that way of it's darker and it's cold and wow, I need that mammalian contact. I need that warmth. I need the people around me. That's a deep thing in us. That's how we survived. That's humans, Homo sapiens. That's our superpower, is our ability to connect, our ability to use the stories that we have to connect. And that's how we've become who we are. If you want to dig into that research, Yuval, oh man, I don't know how to say his name. I'm embarrassed. fear. um, I forget how to say his name, but he wrote the book *Sapiens*, and it's amazing. So you could do some reading over the holidays if you want. So again, being with the discomfort, having some techniques to be with your own discomfort, using that as a way to connect and lean into the warmth. We all have that hunger in the holidays to connect and to celebrate, to have good cheer, that kind of thing. Go see, if you're in a city or in a town that does plays, go see A Christmas Carol. There's got to be theaters playing it. Go do whatever meaningful holiday thing there is. Go in and lean into it and see it with new eyes. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining in today. Wishing you the best. I will be back next week as well. And then I'm going to be off for a couple of weeks because it's going to be Christmas Eve day and New Year's Day on the Wednesdays. So I will not be here for a couple weeks, but I will be back next week. Thank you. Thank you for your questions. And thank you for joining in. Many blessings to you and your family. Take care.